Dear friends, once again I am back with one more poem from T.S.Eliot, that is The Hollow Man. But before I start explaining you the first canto or the first part of the poem, I would like to tell you something about the background of the poem, something related to the title of the poem, and something about that time and about that world the poem is actually set in. This poem, The Hollow Man, was written in the year 1925, exactly 6 years after the World War One. That World War One that began in the year probably 1914 and came to an end in the year 1919 and decimated the European countries. First time Europe had seen so many dead bodies, millions of the people were killed. And what was the after effect of the World War One? How was the world post World War One? People were absolutely deprived of their emotions, deprived of their feelings, deprived of their intellect. And this very particular poem describes us all, portrays us all, the hollow man. Before this poem, I explained you line by line Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. That was written in the year 1914 around, and was published in 1917 around. Means the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock is a pre-World War One poem, and this is post-World War One poem. The love song, Prufrock is a lonely man, a frustrated man, an aging man with lots of old age complications and problem, or the middle aged complications and problems. But here, that one individual man becomes a collective frustrated, not frustrated, you can say absolutely alienated, absolutely finished, absolutely deprived of all the emotions and feelings and humanity. And that's why here hollow men means here the speaker of the poem is not one, but in plural, means collective. Here the frustration and loneliness of Prufrock turns into what? Turns into collective despair, collective suffering, collective destruction, or collective apocalypse. Here, in this very particular poem, Eliot shows the horrors of the World War One. How was the world after the post-World War One? How the World War One had completely destroyed the humanity, completely deprived the man of his humanity, of his feelings, of his emptiness. There was nothing. There was emptiness. There was confusion and chaos. There was meaninglessness almost everywhere. Because the man after the World War I was absolutely in a chaotic situation or in condition. He lost the meaning or the value or the objective of the life. He spoke but without meaning. He thought but without any productive thought. He had body but without spirit, without soul. Hollow man. What do you mean by hollow man? Hollow, empty man. Empty. Hollow means something that is empty from inside. And modern man was only and only a kind of a structure. Only a kind of a statue. Only a kind of effigy. Effigy, you know that. A representative of a human figure made of different kind of stuffs and things, with no liveliness, with no feeling, with no intelligence. This poem actually describes, actually paints, and actually portrays. So bear in mind, the poem was written in 1925. It means post World War I. The title now comes. Now let's learn something about the title of the poem, that is The Hollow Man. Remember that the title of this poem comes from two great works of two great authors. One, William Morris, The Hollow Land, and the other, Rudyard Kipling's The Broken Man. B-R-O-K-E-N, broken, M-A-N, man. So, hollow comes from William Morris's Hollow Land. This man comes from Rudyard Kipling's The Broken Man. And now, let's look at the epigraph of this poem. Mr. Kurds, he did a penny for the old guy. So, at the first look it seems Mr. Kurds is now dead, and now one wants a penny as a donation for the dead Mr. Kurds. But for your kind information, this epigraph, E-P-I-G-R-A-P-H, epigraph, first of all, try to understand the epigraph. An introductory quotation or an introduction of a poem that is actually not the part of that poem, but that is taken from somewhere else, particularly to speak about the main theme of that very particular poem, is called epigraph. So this is the epigraph of the poem. See, the epigraph of the poem also is taken from two works. One, this Mr. Kurz, this very particular person, this very particular name, or this reference of Mr. Kurz taken from actually just Joseph Conrad's The Heart of the Darkness. In The Heart of the Darkness, the narrator of the work is Marlowe, and Marlowe narrates the story of Mr. Kurz, who is an ivory trader, and this ivory trader, Mr. Kurz, decides to go to Congo. He goes there as ivory trader, settles with this planning that he will change the lives of the people of the place. But in the due course of the time, Mr. Kurz just rises to the stature of a demigod, but immoral demigod, corrupt demigod. He claims to be a divine flame, but corrupt one, absolutely hollow from inside. And a time comes, he dies. So, see, on one hand, the poem sets on the note of the death of this kind of person who claims to be, who rises to the just stature of a demigod, but absolutely corrupt, absolutely empty from inside. Now we have the reference of the old guy. This is taken from this. You must have heard about a gunpowder plot. Which play of William Shakespeare is related to the gunpowder plot? That is William Shakespeare's Macbeth. Macbeth is related to the gunpowder plot. For your kind information, I would like to tell you about this old guy, means Guy Fawkes, G-U-Y, Guy, F-A-W-K-E-S, was a man. He was a staunch Catholic. He was a strong, deep-rooted kind of Catholic. But at that time, there was a Puritan, just you can say Puritan, all the just members of the parliament were Puritan. So this Guy Fawkes, a staunch or a true or a extreme kind of Catholic, wanted to blow up the parliament with all the Puritan members of the parliament at the time the parliament in session. So he hatched the conspiracy of blowing up the parliament by putting gunpowder inside the parliament. But this conspiracy of Guy Fawkes was actually leaked. He was arrested and was accused of treason, and finally he was executed exactly probably on 5th November 1605. Since then, people in England in the month of November observe or a kind of celebrate Guy Fawkes Day. And on this very particular day, children go door to door asking for a penny for old Guy. So though this very particular person was accused of treason, he was executed, but he believed in himself. This is the second reference. So both of these two references absolutely clear. This Mr. Kurds and old Guy. Now let's look at the first canto, first part, and try to understand. So bear in mind these two references. One, Mr. Kurtz, a demi just a god who just was absolutely corrupt from inside and absolutely empty from inside. Empty from inside means no humanity at all, no emotion and feeling at all. And on the other hand, old Fawkes, that old Guy Fawkes, who was executed. Why? Because he wanted to blow up what? The parliament. So you can better understand how does this poem begin. So let's look at the lines of the first canto and try to understand the poem, bearing in mind these two references. Eliot has given as epigraph of this poem. We are hollow men, we are the stuffed men. See, the poem begins with what? The poem begins with, you can say that, anaphora, because the first line begins with we are, second line begins with we are, and the first line hollow means empty, the other stuffed. So the first two lines, anaphora. Why? Because begin with we are. Then in the first line, the speaker of the poem, that is plural, say we are hollow men. In the next line, say we are stuffed men. So something that is empty from inside in the first line, something that is filled from inside. So on one hand empty, on the other hand filled. Stuffed means filled. Paradoxical statement. I know one thing that I know nothing. Same. How can something be empty on one hand and how one thing empty from inside and filled from inside? Paradoxical statement. So I told you there, I, prefrock I, and now that frustrated, alienated, lonely man has here become collected. Here, the people of the post-World War I felt absolutely empty. Absolute means they had no intellectual or they had no productive thought. They were absolutely deprived of their fruitful thinking, fruitful thought, fruitful understanding, and fruitful approach. Absolutely empty. So that's why here Eliot in the first line says, so here Eliot, the people of the world post-World War I felt On one hand, that they were empty. On the other hand, stuffed, just like the effigy, just like the scarecrows, you know that. Farmers make a kind of a scarecrow with the useless kind of things, useless kinds of, you can say that, just pieces of clothes, useless kind of material, and put them straightway in the center of the their crop land to make the birds, to actually not to scare the birds, to scare the animals, and to keep the birds and the animals away from their corns, away from their you see crop land. But if the birds or the animals get to know that those scarecrows are lifeless, those scarecrows are straw scarecrows, will, in that situation, the scarecrow be able to keep them away? No. In the same manner, here the people of the world post World War I felt they looked like scarecrows. They were living but absolutely empty from inside. Mind, they were absolutely dazed. Mind did not work at all. They lost their productivity. They lost the meaning of the life. Words came out of their words, but absolutely meaningless. So, leaning together, headpiece filled with a straw. So he says they are absolutely empty. They felt absolutely meaninglessness. They felt meaninglessness. They lived, but without understanding the meaning of the life, without understanding the goal of their life. He says that their head, just like the head of the scarecrow or the effigy, just a lifeless replica of the human, absolutely empty, head stuffed with useless kind of thing like a straw. In the same manner, the modern men felt post-World War, after World War I. No productivity, no productive thought, no looking forward. They had no reason to look forward to. See, headpiece filled with a straw, leaning together, one getting the support from the other. Why? Because in the absence of one, the other tumbles, the other falls. Because no doubt at all living, but life without soul, life without purpose, life without objective. Why? Because the World War I had deprived them of their objective, deprived them of their meaning, deprived them of the value, deprived them of their emotion and feeling. They had the strength and stamina, but paralyzed, limbs paralyzed. And if the limbs, the body parts are paralyzed, how one can use that force and power and strength and stamina? Same. Our dried voices, see, the voices are dried when we whisper together are quiet and meaningless, quiet, absolutely silent, as a wind in dry grass. So see how voices are compared to the wind in the dry grass. A beautiful use of objective correlative, and you know that T.S.Eliot is the champion of the use of objective correlative. His images do not describe something, but they do indicate something. They do speak, they do speak for the just actually speak for the emotion and feelings of the speaker. Speaker of T.S. Eliot does not straightway speak about the emotion and feelings, but those objective correlatives, those those set of images and objects Eliot speak, they indirectly speak for the emotion and feeling, speak for that speaker, speak for the characters. And Eliot always uses this technique, and on the basis of this technique, Eliot calls Shakespeare's Hamlet an artistic failure, and his probably I think Coriolanus artistic success and Macbeth artistic success, because in Macbeth Shakespeare finds objective correlative to express or to indicate or to let the readers understand about the emotion and feelings of Macbeth. But in Hamlet he fails. So here these are the set of objects. What? The wind, dry grass, the feet of the just rat's feet, these rat's feet, then with the dry grass become the objective correlative of the emotion and feelings, frustrations and sufferings and emptiness and hollowness and meaninglessness of the modern man. Here modern men unable to express, unable to express straightway, they speak for that. So they speak, he said, are dry voices. But how are these dry voices? What do these dry voices stand for or express? They almost express nothing. Just as the wind passing through the dry grass or passing through the jungle without leaves. Or what does the sound, that sound of the movement of the rat on the broken glass stand for? Does the moving sound or movement of the feet, that sound of the movement of the feet of the rat on the broken glass produces nothing? That sound produces nothing. That is absolutely meaningless. In the same manner, modern men, they say, they speak, but no meaning, meaninglessness. How the world had become meaningless, that meaninglessness, that emptiness, that hollowness. Here these modern men speak. Eliot actually just conveys that emptiness through these images that become his objective correlative, that express the emotion and feelings of the modern man post World War One. So that is clear. Shape without form. See, paradoxical. How is it possible that there is a form but no shape? Shade without color. If there is a shade, even black, there is color, but shade without form. See the paradox. How has he been using paradox? Paralyzed force, gesture without motion. So try to understand, try to look at a well-built, a strong man with the limbs paralyzed. Sorry, with the limbs or with the paralyzed limbs. Same was the modern man. He had limitless strength, stamina, power, but the World War One had completely paralyzed them, completely neutralized them. Just like a lion is neutralized after being injected, just like the animals are injected for neutralizing them, neutralizing their force and power. Same was the case with the modern man. The World War One has decimated, destroyed. The modern man saw so many deaths. They saw with their own eyes their near and dears blown into pieces, maimed, and mutilated. How shall we feel if we see our near and dears blown into pieces, mutilated into parts? Shall we not become a kind of a stone statue with no emotion, no feeling, living dead? That he says, that shape without form, shade without color, paralyzed force, gesture without motion. So gesture without motion. So if we make our hand move, sometimes we do not speak, but using our hands, making use of the facial expression, we convey something and we succeed in conveying something. But here there is gesture, but no meaning of that gesture. Their gesture, their moving hands, expressions on their face gave out no meaning at all. Absolutely vague, absolutely confused. Modern man was absolutely without emotion, without feelings, without motion. If motion, that motion had no meaning. If gesture, that gesture had no meaning. If spoke, no meaning. And if we understand this poem, then we can better understand his masterpiece, that is the wasteland. Their people do not even speak the full word because they have lost the meaning. Words had become meaningless. Words had lost their meanings. Those who have crossed with direct ties to death's other kingdom, and now straightway again there is the reference of Dante. Again straightway there is the reference of, you can say that we have the straightway reference of Dante. Those who have crossed with direct ties, here stands for those who are dead and crossed that very particular river and went into the another world. Means great people. He means to say this modern men, the speaker of the poem, you can say the modern men, post World War modern men, they say that those who were great, those great people who could look straight into the eyes, died and succeeded in crossing that river of the underworld to go to, or to be the part of the another world. But these modern men who are hollow men, they are stuck somewhere between this world and the underworld. They are not able to cross that river to go into the another world. Why? Because they are hollow men. He says what? Remember us, if at all not as lot, violent souls, but only as the hollow men, the stuffed men. So here, these hollow men mean these modern men are making a personal appeal to those brave, dead souls who could see straightway into the eyes of death and succeeded in crossing that very particular river, to pray for them. Why? Because they are somewhere hanging between this world and that underworld. He says that, they say, please remember us. They don't want to be forgotten, but they know that they will be forgotten because they have done nothing worthwhile to be remembered. So they are asking those great dead souls, dead people, or to the souls of those great dead people to remember them, not as something great. Why? Because if not at all as lot violent souls. So they are not neither violent nor non-violent. So they say, please do not remember us as a violent one, nor as non-violent one, but something as a hollow man, something as a stuffed man. So hope, my dear learners, you must have understood the first part of this, or the first canto of the poem, provided that you have failed to understand something, certain line of the first canto, you're unable to understand, do let me know.